All right, diving in today, folks. We're going deep, deep into something that's been around for ages, but still has this power to really make you think. The Imitation of Christ by Thomas A. Kempis.
Yeah, this book,
We've got,
it's a classic.
yeah, we've got some choice bits lined up for you, the foreword, how the book's laid out, and then we're going to hit you with some choice chapters
Oh,
from all four books, the real meat of it.
yeah. Yeah, no slogging through the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Or we give you the good stuff, the stuff that still matters today.
Exactly. Think of it like a cheat sheet to centuries of wisdom distilled down to just the pure essence.
That's it. And you know what's really cool is the way it's organized.
Oh, yeah.
Most scholars agree that putting the section on Holy Communion at the end
Okay.
makes more sense for how the ideas flow.
Okay.
So we're going to follow that structure, right? We'll be digging into all sorts of things, like how to cultivate that inner life.
Yeah.
Finding that stillness within.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the whole significance of communion, which is like the culmination of it all.
And that's really what we're after here, right? Taking these old school ideas and seeing how they actually play out in our lives today, like right now.
Exactly. Because you know what strikes me about this work is how practical it is.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think something written so long ago would still be so relevant.
Yeah.
But at Kempis, he really gets into these core human struggles and offers up some perspectives that can really shift your whole outlook.
Okay, so right off the bat,
Yeah.
one thing that just screams relevance in our world, right? It's this idea that chasing after all the fleeting stuff, all the worldly things, it just leaves you empty.
It does. He doesn't mince words about it.
No.
It's a constant warning against putting your faith in things that just don't last.
Right.
We're talking riches that vanish, the temporary high of praise, all those desires that just lead to trouble. He's basically saying, these are dead ends if you're looking for true fulfillment.
It's almost like he's directly challenging our modern obsession with, likes and status and having all the things.
Exactly right. It's like he's looking at our Instagram feeds and saying,
yeah,
what are you doing? This isn't going to bring you lasting happiness.
And he talks about the emptiness of just wanting a long life if you're not actually making it a good one.
Right. What's the point of living a long time if you're not actually living it well?
It really makes you think about where you're putting your energy,
Absolutely. And what's interesting is how he talks about time.
Yeah.
He's not saying ignore the present moment.
Okay.
But he's saying live it with an awareness of the bigger picture.
Uh-huh.
Like the eternal perspective. He's critical of that short-sightedness, of valuing what's hot today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah, like that viral TikTok trend that's going to be forgotten next week.
Exactly, or that gadget you just got to have.
Yeah.
He's saying focus on a deeper, more enduring kind of joy.
So it's about learning to tell the difference between the superficial stuff and what's truly meaningful.
Yeah, and it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff.
Right.
He's also saying we got to actively choose a life of virtue. Which brings us to our next point.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
How we live, our character, that's way more important than how much we know.
Yeah, that's kind of a radical idea in our, information-obsessed world.
It is, right. We're all about gathering knowledge and facts and figures.
Yeah.
But Kempis is saying, hold up, all that intellectual stuff, it's meaningless if you're not actually living a good life.
Yeah.
He says he'd rather feel remorse for his mistakes than just be able to explain what remorse is.
Wow.
It's about action, not just knowledge.
Okay, so it's your spiritual resume is more about your good deeds than your theological degrees or whatever.
That's a great way to put it. He even says that a humble, ordinary person who genuinely tries to serve something greater is in a better spiritual position than some brilliant intellectual who's full of themselves and neglecting their own well-being.
Right. So it's not about just knowing a bunch of stuff about spirituality. It's about actually putting it into practice.
Exactly. That's the key takeaway here.
And this focus on the inner life, on virtue,
it
kind of naturally leads us to the importance of humility and self-awareness, right?
Absolutely, because Kempis is really big on this idea that really knowing ourselves, understanding our weaknesses and strengths.
Yeah.
That's the foundation for any real spiritual growth.
And he doesn't just hint at it. He goes all in, right? He calls truly knowing yourself.
He does. He says it's
best and most perfect advice.
The best, the most perfect.
Which might sound like a bit intense.
It does sound a bit extreme.
But it's really about being honest with ourselves.
Right. It's about having a realistic view of ourselves.
And not getting, like, too big for our britches, right?
Yeah, he's big on not thinking we're better than other people.
And he's got this great line about how, like, we shouldn't feel superior to someone who's making mistakes.
Yeah, because we don't know how long we'll manage to stay on the right path ourselves.
Right. Like, we're all capable of messing up.
We're all fragile, maybe more fragile than we think.
It's a good reminder to stay humble.
And what I find fascinating is how he contrasts this with the pursuit of learning.
Yeah.
Like book smarts.
Okay.
He's saying that quiet, humble self-knowledge is actually a more reliable path towards something greater.
So it's not about, like, external validation or achievements.
Nope. It's about internal understanding.
Okay. And speaking of internal focus.
Yeah.
He's really big on protecting that inner peace.
Huge on it. And in our world, with all the distractions and noise,
oh, yeah,
it's more important than ever.
Right. It's like every notification is pulling you in a different direction.
Exactly. And he specifically warns about gossip and pointless chatter.
Okay.
He says they pull us away from that inner stillness and a deeper connection.
Right. So it's not just about, like, avoiding negative stuff. It's also about being intentional with where you put your attention.
Yeah. And he points out how getting caught up in trends and desires can actually hold us back from real spiritual progress.
He even says that overcoming a single bad habit takes serious effort and focus.
It does.
So it's like if you want to cultivate that inner life, you got to be really deliberate about it.
Absolutely. And this ties back into what we were talking about earlier, right? The value of structure and intention.
Right. Not getting lost in the noise.
He uses this image of stepping away from the crowd with Jesus.
Yeah.
It's about prioritizing your inner world.
Okay, so we've got this inner focus.
Yeah.
But it's not all rainbows and butterflies in there, right?
No. He's very real about the struggles.
Yeah, there are challenges and temptations and all that.
But he doesn't see those as failures.
Oh.
He sees them as opportunities for growth.
Okay, I like that.
He actually says our progress is often measured by the temptations and trials we face.
So the tough times are actually like a sign that you're moving forward.
Yeah, and developing patience in those times is key to making real progress.
That's actually pretty encouraging.
Right. It's like, okay, this is hard, but it's part of the process.
And he gives some really practical advice for dealing with these challenges.
Oh, yeah, like don't give up when you're tempted.
Yeah.
Pray for help and trust that there's a way through it.
So it's like you're not alone in this.
Exactly. And he really emphasizes humility in those tough times.
Okay.
Like humble yourself under God's hand in every trial.
So it's about leaning on something bigger than yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of virtue, humility, inner focus.
Yeah.
But there's this other big theme that keeps popping up. Love.
Yeah, and not just any kind of love, right? He's talking about true love.
Right, and specifically, like, love directed towards something beyond ourselves.
Right, it's not just a feeling.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental orientation of your whole being.
And he makes a really interesting point about how, like, our love for other people can be fickle and fleeting.
It can. And he contrasts that with the lasting, genuine love for something eternal.
So, like, attachments to people can lead to disappointment, but devotion to a higher power, that's more stable.
That's the idea. And he really hammers home the point that we should love this higher power for its own sake, not just for what we get out of it.
That's a big one, right? Like not just loving it because it makes you feel good.
Exactly. It's about pure devotion.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have virtue, humility, love.
But there's one more big topic that we can't avoid.
The end, right.
Yeah, death and what comes after.
And Kempis is not afraid to get real about it.
No, he's pretty blunt about our mortality and the idea of being held accountable for our actions.
He says we should live each day as if it were our last.
Okay, that could sound kind of morbid.
It could, but it's not meant to scare you.
No.
It's meant to give you a sense of urgency and purpose.
Okay.
Like if you knew this was your last day,
yeah,
would you be doing what you're doing right now?
It really makes you think.
And he says focusing on avoiding bad actions is a wiser approach than just fearing death.
Right, because if you're living a good life, death isn't so scary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also talks about how unpredictable the future is.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen.
So be prepared, live intentionally in the present moment.
And he encourages us to think about how we want to be remembered.
Yeah, like what qualities do you want people to associate you with?
And then, like, use those qualities to guide how you live right now.
Right. So it's about living in a way that you won't regret later on.
And he's got this strong warning against putting off taking care of your soul.
Yeah, the present moment is precious. Don't waste it.
And then there's the whole judgment thing, right?
Yeah, the idea that we'll be held accountable for our actions.
And he doesn't sugarcoat it.
No, he's pretty vivid in describing the potential consequences.
It's a serious wake-up call.
It is. It's like he's saying, get your act together now so you're not freaking out later.
So by keeping our ultimate end in mind, we're more likely to make choices that matter in the long run.
Exactly. It's a long-term perspective that we often lose sight of.
Okay, and then shifting gears a bit.
Yeah.
He spends a lot of time talking about the importance of our inner life.
This is like the core of his teaching, right?
Yeah, that connection with something greater within ourselves.
He quotes that famous line, "The kingdom of God is within you."
Right.
And it's basically saying, turn your attention inward, away from all the distractions.
Create that inner sanctuary.
Exactly, a place of peace and connection.
And he emphasizes trust, right?
Huge on trust.
Putting your faith in something beyond yourself.
Yeah, not relying solely on human relationships, which can be unreliable.
Right, because people let you down.
They do, but he's saying there's something more stable, something more dependable.
And he describes someone who's truly cultivated their inner life as being free from excessive desires, able to connect with that deeper source of peace whenever they want.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, to have that inner strength and peace.
And he also talks about the difference between our natural instincts and, like, true guidance.
Okay, so like the stuff we just do automatically versus like a deeper kind of knowing.
Yeah, and he contrasts them really clearly.
Okay, like what?
Well, our natural instincts are often selfish, right?
Yeah, we want what we want.
But true guidance points us towards something bigger than ourselves.
Okay.
Our natural side resists challenges.
Yeah, we like to stay in our comfort zones.
But true growth often means pushing past those comfort zones.
So it's like there's this internal struggle going on.
There is, between our ego and our desire for something more.
And recognizing that struggle can help us make better choices.
Absolutely. It's all about self-awareness.
Okay, and finally, we got to talk about the big practice.
The one he spends so much time on.
Yeah, the one with all the reverence and significance.
Right. He emphasizes how we should approach it with deep respect and awe.
And he talks about the love and sacrifice embodied in this practice.
Yeah, the depth of meaning behind it.
And he encourages frequent participation.
Yeah, he's a big believer in the benefits of regular engagement.
And there's a lot of focus on preparation and reflection.
Right. Self-examination, commitment to change, offering yourself fully to the experience.
And he's clear about not taking it lightly or skipping it without good reason.
It's not something to be taken for granted.
He presents this practice and the teachings as like essential nourishment for the soul.
Food for the spirit.
And there's this sense of longing for connection and unity.
A deep yearning that this practice can fulfill.
And as we thought, this part's probably going to resonate most with listeners who are interested in specific spiritual traditions.
Right, those who are already familiar with these kinds of practices.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
I
want to leave you with a question.
Okay, hit us with it.
Which of these age-old principles really hits home for you right now?
Yeah, which one's got you thinking?
And what's one thing you've learned that challenges your current perspective?
Like, what's making you rethink things?
How could you take even just one of these ideas and apply it to your life?
Whether it's about trust, inner peace, or just being more self-aware.
It's all about taking those ancient insights and making them relevant today.
And just to recap, we've talked about the fleeting nature of worldly stuff, the importance of inner character, the power of humility, the need for focus, and the significance of what truly matters.
We tried to keep it concise and clear, like you asked.
Yeah, no information overload here.
Hopefully you got some aha moments along the way.
Some real takeaways that you can use.
So now that we've planted the seeds, it's up to you to water them.
Let them grow.
Maybe revisit the book or explore other works on these themes.
See what sparks your interest.
And most importantly, ask yourself, what step can you take today based on what you've learned?
It's about taking action, making those ancient wisdoms come alive in your own life.
Because at the end of the day, in a world that's so noisy and chaotic,
it's true.
The search for inner peace and meaning,
that's what matters.
That's what really matters.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll catch you next time.